Welcome to Champions Network TV on a Friday night. Good evening, wherever you are. And today it's a light-hearted evening where we discuss current issues. And today we are discussing what is social media activism. Is it just is it going to drive change, or is it just going to make noise? And to help me uh, explore this interesting topic is a panel of well uh, educated people about social media. We have got Jenna, Shumba, Umbamakombe. So welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And
Good evening.
and to start off, to for us to understand what is social media, we are going to hear from Jenna.
Okay, good evening once again. So, if you look at social media, we have to understand exactly what it is, right? So, we can define the social media as websites and applications that enable users to create,
Uh, I think Jenna is frozen, so I'll try to just to fill in his shoes. Social media is they are quite is where we engage on an internet platforms, and activism is where we are creating these we are using these platforms to bring about either change, or we are trying to advocate for either it might be a political position, or it might be a social ills that we are engaging in. Quite a number of uh, activities has happened on social media, and we have heard the Black Lives Matter. It was all on social media. We have had this flag in Zimbabwe, and recently we had the March for Trial that happened just a few days ago. So social media is with us. To some extent, some have said it has shaped some political directions. Whether that is true or not, we will hear as people discuss in this on this platform, and maybe to just to get us some of the social media platform that we have. Uh, we are going to hear from Umbama Kombe. You are muted.
Okay. Right. Social media. Social media is an activity theorem whereby everybody has a say in whatever they want to say in their own mannerism and way of presenting it. It can be very political. It can be social, and it's a mixed bag salad of events relating to what we do, how we do it, as regards our activities of daily living. That's how I understand it.
Um, Maybe to take us through the pros and cons is none other than Shumba.
Yeah, so I think if we go back to the origin of social media, it's coming due to the rise of the internet. When the internet was born,
Then we started having these social platforms where people meet. Initially, we had news groups and things like that where people would meet, discuss certain matters. News groups are still there. But there's one particular person, I think I wrote about it 3 or 4 years ago. If you can just bring up the article that I wrote about the future, where I was talking about the internet, how it's going to change people's lives. So if you listen to David Bowie, was not even a technologist, he was just a mere singer. But in his interview with Jeremy Paxman, he was so ahead of his time. He was like a prophet when he was talking about how the internet was going to fundamentally change the society. These were the early days of the internet, and what he was saying was people didn't even really understand it. I don't know whether you can play the clip just for people to listen to what he was saying. This was 94.
Put on your red shoes and dance the blues. Dance to the song they're playing on the radio.
If you were starting out now, did I read somewhere that you said if you were 19, you wouldn't go into the music business?
I think that's probably quite right. I think I'd probably just be a fan and a collector of records.
What would you do?
I wanted to be a musician because it seemed rebellious. It seemed subversive. It felt like one could affect change to a form. It was very hard to hear music when I was younger. You know, when I was really young, you had to tune into AFN radio to hear the American records. There was no MTV, and it wasn't sort of wall-to-wall blanket music, and so therefore it had a kind of a call to arms kind of feeling to it. Is that this is the thing that will change things. This is a dead, dodgy occupation to have. It's still produced signs of horror from people. If you said, I'm in rock and roll, it's my goodness. Now it's a career opportunity, and the internet is now carries the flag of being subversive and possibly rebellious, and chaotic, nihilistic, and oh yes, it is. It's forget about the Microsoft element. The monopolies do not have a monopoly, maybe on programs.
What you like about it is the fact that anyone can say anything or do anything.
From my stand, from where I am, because of by virtue of the fact that I am a pop singer and writer, I really embrace the idea that there's a new demystification process going on between the artist and the audience. I think when you look back at, say, this last decade, there hasn't really been one single entity, artist or group, that have personified or become the brand name for the 90s. It was starting to fade a little in the 80s. And in the 70s, there were still definite artists. In the 60s, there were the Beatles and the Hendrix. And in the 50s, there was Presley. Now it's subgroups and genres. It's hip hop. It's girl power. It's a communal kind of thing. It's about the community. It's becoming more and more about the audience, because the point of having somebody who led the forces has disappeared because the vocabulary of rock is too well known. It's a currency that is not it's not devoid of meaning anymore, but it's certainly only a conveyor of information now. It's not a conveyor of rebellion. And the internet has taken on that, as I say. And so I find that a terribly exciting area. So from my standpoint, being an artist, I like to see what the new construction is between artist and audience. There is a breakdown. There's a personified, I think, by the rave culture of the last few years, where the audience is at least as important as whoever is playing at the rave. It's almost like the artist is to accompany the audience and what the audience are doing. And that feeling is very much permeating music and permeating the internet.
But what is it specifically about the internet? I mean, anybody can say anything. And it all adds up to what? I mean, it seems to me there's nothing cohesive about it in the way that there was something cohesive about the youth revolution in music.
Oh, but absolutely. And because I think that we, at the time, up until at least the mid-70s, really felt that we were still living under the, in the guise of a single and absolute created society where there were known truths and known lies, and there was no kind of duplicity or pluralism about the things that we believed in. That started to break down rapidly in the 70s, and the idea of a duality in the way that we live. There are always 2, 3, 4, 5 sides to every question. That the singularity disappeared, and that, I believe, has produced such a medium as the internet, which absolutely establishes and shows us that we are living in total fragmentation.
You don't think that some of the claims being made for it are hugely exaggerated? I mean, when the telephone was invented, people made amazing claims.
I know the
NDVs,
president,
for example.
The president at the time when it was first invented, he was outrageous. He said he foresaw the day in the future when every town in America would have a telephone. Now how dare he claim like that? Absolute bullshit. No, you see, I don't agree. I think the internet, I don't think we've even seen the tip of the iceberg. I think the potential of what the internet is going to do to society, both good and bad, is unimaginable. I think we're actually on the cusp of something exhilarating and terrifying.
It's just a tool.
I think you can stop it there.
No.
Yeah, so I like what he's saying. This was 94 when we didn't even have some of the social media platforms. This guy saw where we are from that far end, but even this highly acclaimed interviewer didn't understand what the guy was on about. And we can see now that the internet has really transformed the society. And especially with the social media, it has turned the world on its head. So governments are worried. I think Makombe alluded to some of the things that have come through the internet. And Misha, you spoke about the Black Lives Matter, some of the well-documented upheavals across the world. I think in the Middle East, we had the Arab Spring. So some governments are actually using the internet to subvert other governments. So that's how massive the social media platforms have become. So for us is, how do we see there are those pros and cons to social media? Especially if you look at Africa with a young population, there can be subversion. I always say myself that Africa Spring is coming. We had that Arab Spring, but the Africa Spring is coming. And then those are the negatives about the internet. And then the positives, I think we have seen trillion-dollar companies being built. We have seen artificial intelligence being built and being used in tandem with social media platforms, and you can see this competition as well within social media platforms. China with TikTok, and America with its giants in Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp. So we are all hooked to social media now. And productivity has actually gone up because we are interacting more. We are actually doing more stuff on the internet. We can hardly survive without a phone these days, because this is now where we are spending most of our time. And it has increased productivity across the globe. But it has also come with a lot of problems as well. Families are breaking down. I think when Facebook started, we saw families breaking down, and I think the negatives and the positives, I think they are of equal measure, really, depending on which side of the divide you are, because there are also scams and things like that on the negative side. So we have witnessed those pros and cons relating to the internet. So I think we still got a long way to go. There's still a lot to come. We haven't even started as well, because artificial intelligence is gonna really change the world, because now we're going into a time where you don't even know whether you're speaking to the real person or you're seeing the real person, or it's just something that has been AI generated. So we'll see how we get on, but this is where we are.
Thank you very much. And the viewers, if you have got any contribution or questions to ask, you can put it in the chat box, and we will answer. So here we are, gentlemen. Social media is here to stay. As Makombe said, it can be used for political, it can be used for social change, and as Shumba had alluded, it has come at a cost. When Facebook came on the scene, there were some families that broke down. Now, some people, their phones, they can't do without a phone. Even myself, to be honest, if I leave my phone, you don't know whether you're going to be able to go to the bank and do your transaction. So let's discuss. What's your take on this?
Okay, let's first look at maybe the key features of this the social media, right? Because essentially it's for communication, right? And then for the content creation and content sharing as well. Then we talk about community building. Yes, we can talk about community building, but now you've just given us another story of the other side of the story, which is not community building. For instance, you spoke about some families that were disrupted because of the social media. So it has quite a lot of things that it has caused. Yes, some of them are positive and some are negative.
I think the issue with the social media evolves around the whole concept of the internet. The internet is about I and the community and grouping. The encouragement is to create groups. The encouragement is to create communities. And the encouragement is to measure how you participate in the salad of events. How are you going to participate in a community? How are you going to participate in a group? So that's what basically the internet is. Alongside that, there are topical issues worldwide about how do we police the internet. Policing the internet is a massive, massive issue at the moment. That's why if you don't execute disclaimers in whatever you're saying, you're liable to some litigation of some sort from different quarters. So technically, you should be very careful as regards what you say, where you say it, and how you say it. So are we saying we are leading to a classless society whereby everybody is going to define their own space? Internet activities are already talking about space. This is my space. This is my space. So ownership of space as a virtual entity has become something new. If you own space, what happens with your space? You facilitate ground rules. What are the ground rules? I don't want you to say this on my space. Okay, if you're going to say this on my space, I need you to execute some disclaimer of some sort. So that's why we are That's why the internet is work in progress all the time. If you follow the mechanics of how they are doing business. That's how I
But
look at it.
can we say social media is putting some checks and balances on everything that we do nowadays? Because now you find that even when you are walking and you just fall, by the time you raise your head up, someone is on the phone, either taking a video or a picture.
Yeah, it's about personal accountability. Remember, what people don't understand is this: social media has made everybody a publicist. You can publish whatever you want, but the issue is, are you accountable for the content you are trying to broadcast wherever you're going? That's where the issue is.
Yeah, because I think, Jenna, you asked a very good question. Because what we are finding, I saw a case in South Africa. It was actually our fellow Zimbabweans. I think they had gone for swimming in the river. And one of the guys was caught by the tide and was being swept by the river down. And then someone was, instead of maybe trying to help in some way, he was busy on his phone saying, he's going. And you're thinking, now social media. And now, sometimes when there's an accident, I think we have even lost that idea that there's something called dignity in death. People go to an accident scene, they are showing all the people's limbs there. Is it really necessary? So I think there's that
I
fight
think the
that
problem,
Makombe spoke to say there's also need for policing the internet, because in the
yes,
wrong
yes.
hands it can be
Mm.
it can do a lot of damage as well.
Well, okay, go ahead, Mr. Jen. Go ahead.
Okay, and rarely do people actually try to get to authentify the content that is shared, and just because of that issue Mr. Makombe has just been talking about, to say it needs policing, but it becomes very difficult now to police that
Yeah,
social
but
media content.
what
Mm.
yeah, this is a very strong point. There is legislation pertaining to the content you share. If you read this disclaimer, legal entities, there's something called rights to be forgotten. If I write something about myself, or if somebody writes something about myself, I can go to the provider and say, look, I didn't write this, and this is because of A, B, C, D. I want to exercise my right to be forgotten so that it's eliminated from the internet. Sometimes you win, and sometimes you do not win. So these are some of the developments that are happening in the legal entity as regards the internet. It has become litigious behavior easy. It's very easy for me to start telling you off on the internet and then time say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean it. But the damage is done. We've already told 1 billion people.
Mm. That's exactly what I wanted to say. At times you start trying to figure out what happened, but then already it's water under the bridge, and you try to figure out what really transpired. How can you
There's something they're
try
talking
to
about these
rectify?
days. They're talking about authenticated lies.
Mm.
If I tell you something now, and then the story goes to Shumba, by the time the story goes to Misha, it's a different story. Because everybody would have personified or customized it into something totally different.
And I think to add another layer on this, Wumba has alluded that it is also political. There are some other government officials that are actually putting up policy statements on their Twitter handle, and whether it becomes, I don't know, for example, left, right, and center in America, Trump, you hear he has tweeted this, he has tweeted this. I don't know how that sits up within our society.
Well, the problem is our society, for one reason or another, tends to ignore these things. If somebody puts a disclaimer, we ignore it. It only becomes a big story when they take action. And loads of actions are happening these days because the interpretation of one's brand has become big business. I may say something about a particular brand, I don't know, ABC is okay but not good. I can easily go to court and invite you to justify why you think it's good or not good. So that litigation platform is alive. And a lot of people are making some money out of that, waiting for you to make that expensive mistake.
I think what Misha was asking was, you go on Twitter and then you have government officials sort of, it seems diplomacy has now taken a backstage in that if you look at the president of America now, policies are being announced on Twitter, like today, on social media. Like today, he just said this afternoon, anyone who deals with Iran, you going. He was in negotiations with Iran. He doesn't even take time to say, "Oh, we have been discussing with Iran. Things have has fallen apart. We haven't found an agreement. So we're taking this another stage. So the next stage is gonna be we're putting sanctions on Iranian oil." You know, that would be having that diplomatic aspect, but he just shoots from the hip. He comes on the internet, on social media, and says, anyone who deals with Iran will get secondary sanctions from us. And guess what? China gets 90% of its oil from Iran. So it's just like you are belittling another country. And how China is going to take that already, it's another.
But the cross interpretation is not like that. They can shoot from the hip, that's fine. But there's also this concept of misunderstanding. You misunderstood the notion of what I was trying to execute. It always happens all the time. Minister Sonson will say, death sentence is a must, blah, 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 blah. And then somebody takes the whole issue to court. And then the minister will say, no, I was talking about a particular instance. And henceforth, it was not a generic assumption that death sentence is a must. So I'm misunderstood. So the misunderstood clause and concept is very common. It's usually an exit way to get yourself out of certain responsibility. So I'm sorry, I was misunderstood. Because for you to prove beyond reasonable doubt that I was misunderstood. How would you prove it?
Yeah, but in the case of, if we're talking in the case of Trump, then he wakes up, is indeed that tit for tat with China on tariffs, is because you have removed that layer of diplomacy, of saying, let's negotiate. He just wakes up, he says, I've put 35% on tariffs on China. China feels humiliated and says, oh, we put 55%. He wakes up, he says it's 104%. So you see what we are saying now, even the governments, they've also they've become to be toxic, like what we are seeing with individuals on the internet. Yet for governments, it was mainly through diplomatic channels that these things were handled.
But the diplomatic channels have gone away. We've got big companies like the one owned by Elon Musk. I hope I survive litigation out of this. He decided to buy X to liberalize the airwaves pertaining to content creation. And if you read on his terms and conditions, they specifically say that if you go against the rules and regulations or breach the rules and regulations, action will be taken. The action we don't know to date. If you read it, it's there.
Yeah, of course, you don't own platforms.
We don't own a
don't own platforms. This is why, like, I think the Chinese were very clever, because Facebook, WhatsApp, they all wanted to be in China, but the Chinese said no, because they know these things can also be tools of subversion. So what the Chinese said, we're gonna create our platforms, because you remember what happened. It's only we are on. I don't know whether we'll also get into trouble with YouTube. I was gonna talk about
don't go there.
Yeah.
Don't
I
go
was
there.
gonna talk about a case relating
because
to
they
YouTube.
will take action.
Yeah.
And, a case in point, I think some weeks back, General Michael Langley made a statement when he was being cross-examined, and the result was this.
Now in the past.
Right. This has been the a match for trial throughout the world, in Burkina Faso, in Nigeria, in Ghana, everywhere. What role did the social media activism play in this particular instance?
Crowd formulation. They're talking about one big voice. You can't localize the crowd. That George said this, but they can create a litigious corporate suit against the person who broadcast the information. That's why these days companies want to define what goes in and out of their domain. If you're going to speak on behalf of a company, they want to know what you're going to speak about. Are you qualified to do that? And is your platform ready to take such battering? Because they will batter you. Because if you look up across all the business entities, they're all talking about disclaimers. Why do we have disclaimers? We need them to safeguard our positions or their respective positions. We may say they want to safeguard their position, fine. But then in return, you also need to safeguard your position. So that's why it's very important to be cautious when we're addressing the media worldwide. Because it makes or breaks you. There's a big newspaper, I'm not going to mention it. It's doing very well. It's one of the leading publications. They say a lot of things that are wrong, and then the following day they'll say we were misunderstood. The correct issue is ABCD. But then that takes a lot of money.
But one other thing that you must also see is that these social media platforms, they've actually been taken as places where direct confrontation can be done, because you know the consequences. You can always run around like what Mr. Wumba has just said now, to say we were misquoted or we were misunderstood or something like that. And also, if you look at the other things that you're talking about, to say, for instance, you spoke about X, where you say they've got some what can I say? They've got some kind of control where they say action will be taken. But we realize that because of the massive investment that they've got, it's only a few, maybe very high cost things or content that the action can actually be put in. Because but a lot of things, some of the things are not monetary, but they are defamatory, but maybe to some people who are not as rich as enough to get that action to be taken.
Yeah, fine. If you are not as wealthy to take action, but there is also an essence of understanding whether there's been some injury to your brand or to yourself or anything like that. So that area of thinking is active these days, nowadays. There's a famous story that happened in Zimbabwe. Church members had a fight. And this other guy decided to go to court to say that during that altercation, Pastor So had the worst brand of the fight. He lost the fight to the other pastor. The other pastor invited the other guy who wrote the incident in a local paper, invited him to justify how and why he thinks he lost the fight to the other guy. And it went to court. The guy ended up apologizing, blah, 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 because the monies they were talking about were serious monies.
Yeah.
I think
This go on.
okay, go ahead.
This area of law is very dangerous at the moment because a lot of everybody involved is involved. Remember, I told you there is I, meaning you, then there are groups, and then there are communities. When we try to personify it in Shona, kune wanu, kune munu, ne wanu oshawo. That's the best way we can explain. Yeah.
Yeah, you always have that statement.
So we must be in a position to understand how it works. Otherwise, you destroy a brand overnight. There was a case of this guy. He was a jeweler here in England. He said the wrong thing. He lost the business overnight.
Yeah, I wanted to come back to what Misha was asking about this issue with the demonstrations that we have been seeing of late, which are being amplified by social media about Traore. I think what social media and the internet has done as well was, before I think we used to have this asymmetry of information between the West and the rest of the world. So the West used to take advantage because they had the big media houses. So their narrative even in Zimbabwe, when I used to listen to CNN, BBC, those were my channels. So whatever they tell you, you take it as de facto truth, you don't question it. And then now with social media, because now we have media platforms owned by Russia, some owned by America. So people have access to all sorts of information, and people are beginning to awaken to understand what's going on. And the West also is still lagging behind with that very concept that they can use their powerful media to still send a narrative that can control the people. So now if you look at those demonstrations, they were not covered by BBC. Even CNN didn't cover. If they did, it was just a little tiny segment of it. Most Western media, they didn't cover because that narrative of supporting Traore doesn't suit their agenda. So,
but then it was not covered. You are very correct. But if you go to the aggregators, right, where they sell news for broadcast to other entities, it's there. It's not newsworthy for them, but if you go to news aggregation, there are lots of issues on it. Lots of images, pictures.
No, it's not like it's not any, we cannot say it's not worth any news to them, because like I said before, they've always, it's their interest that matter. If it doesn't suit their narrative, then
Yeah.
they won't cover it. So in this case, because if you hear that general was talking in America, I think we spoke about this when we spoke about the geopolitics of things that are going on in the world, and I was saying once the war in Ukraine ends, the focus will be on Africa, because the world wants to control Africa resources, because now the fight is in the open. The supply chains are breaking apart into two centers of powers. So America would want its own resources, China would want its own resources. So we are being forced to choose a side. So what has happened with the Sahel region is these boys are more aligned. They are actually seeking for protection from Russia. I think what Traore did, was it last week, which really freaked the Americans, was to go to Russia. Do you know what he asked for? He said, can you build a nuclear power plant in Burkina Faso? So what's the next stage of, after you have nuclear power, what's the next stage? You gotta want a weapon.
Shumba, there's one thing that you have to understand as well. That information is power, and then you must also remember that it is also used for propaganda. So in what you are saying now, to say you would maybe take one media house to be at least, maybe to be 100% believe that what they say is true. That is what makes them to tell you what they want you to hear, not what is happening.
Yeah,
Yes.
But gentlemen, try and understand. The news fraternity has changed over time, changed big time. Right. Like you say, I agree that, each media house is its own narrative. If it's Sky TV, it's Al Jazeera, they've got their own way of presenting their own stories. It doesn't mean that all the stories they gather during the course of their day go to waste. They do not go to waste. They're sold to aggregate story aggregation or aggregator companies for dissemination or for resale to significant other news houses. This is where the issue is. They create stories, they do some writing, forward them to aggregators. Aggregators do A, B, C, D, and they make it juicy and sell it. When it comes to a particular brand of news, they've got to be seen and heard to follow a particular narrative. So those particular narratives are what we are on about. If you write something which is hitting us on Facebook, you will be kicked out. But if you write something near enough litigas, you will not be kicked out. Because it's like asking the difference between a bath and a shower.
No, there are certain topics that you don't touch on social media. Yeah. And you can see it. What I'm saying is, you saw when that war in the Middle East started, the war I'm talking about. If you look at, you were looking at every channel from CNN to SNBC to BBC it's like they are reading a script. The first question you were being asked was the same.
Yeah.
because it's a narrative that would have been pushed to say this is how we are going to approach this matter, right? And they can also choose to say, oh, this thing is not good for, it doesn't reflect well on us, let's just ignore it as if it's not there. They have that strategy as well. So what they will do is with these demonstrations, they can choose to say, no, let's not add what do you yeah, let's not add fuel to it and sort of enhance it more. Encourage it. So what we'll do is we'll lie low, and you'll see in the Western world, from DW, France 24, wherever, the issue is not covered. But now, because of that's why there were talks of banning TikTok and all that, because the TikTok, Al Jazeera, these are independent media, and now they are giving people another view of the world which was restricted from them. Because before, it would have been a non-matter, nobody would know that there was a march in London. It would just go, it would be just localized in London, that's it, it's finished, and they'll go ahead with their plans.
But Shumba, why are you just saying you're saying it happens in the Western countries only, but we actually the way I see it is it has become normal in every country because they need to protect their integrity. If, for instance, you look at, I'll give you a typical example of us here in Zimbabwe, right? These past weeks where there was some big talks about who's saying this and what, but they said that just keep quiet,
I know
leave
what
it
you're
like
talking.
doesn't happen. So it doesn't happen anyway. You just ignore the story because you feel it.
No. Gone are the days for you can't ignore.
No. I get what you are saying.
Let's have one contributor at a time.
I get what you are saying, Jenna. Because always governments are there to protect the narrative.
Yes.
They want all governments. That's why I'm saying it's not even just the Western world. Even you go to China,
Yes.
there are certain things you are not allowed to say. Yeah, because even in Russia, they've got their narrative to say. If in some countries, unlike I think in Zimbabwe, we could say it's disorganized. In this country,
you just sneaked in. Soko, how are you?
I've lost my train
welcome,
of
Soko.
ndakutadzisai kutaura here.
Azvikashumba vakapika.
Ndakutadzisai kutaura here Soko.
Vari kuvava Shumba, enda henyu mberi. Sori henyu ndada kukwazisa, enda henyu mberi.
Makadi maswera sesu.
Maswera sesu. Sorry, ndanonokanisa.
So I was saying, Gutichi, every country has got a narrative to protect. What you see with Western world is my editors, they work in tandem with the government, the Prime Minister's office, like in the UK. So if there's a narrative, if these are big issues, small issues, yes, they can be independent, but it's bigger issues that the country has got a stake in. They have to speak with one voice. If they want to go to war, they will drive the whole nation. They want to take the whole nation with them in that narrative. You see? So you can see Europe now, with especially the war in Ukraine. We have been just being told a certain narrative. So in Zimbabwe as well, they would want a certain narrative to say, hey, this one, don't touch this because you get into trouble. And for sure, you get into trouble because governments, that's what governments do. They always want to protect the narrative.
Now that governments try to protect narratives, and now the social media space and the content creators are out there, and the AI is out there, and a lot of fake news are going out. How is it going to be policed? Is there enough legislation to protect what goes out there, or the legal fraternity is playing a catch-up?
I think the legal framework is there, but the main issue is on the follow-ups and like what Umba has just been saying on that. I still remember he was talking about that X. You know, there is always some statements that are put in the when you are joining any social media platform. But then what happens now if you misbehave? That is where the story starts. Because, for instance, you said it's clearly written action will be taken. But what action? And who has seen the action?
It could have happened. No, I was going to go a little bit back. You highlighted a very interesting point on fake news. There's a topical case, I think, going through the course at the moment. What is fake news? Does anybody know? If you carelessly use the word, "Oh, that's fake news," what is fake news?
I could say it's unsubstantiated statements you make, whether against the government or against an individual.
If you go out as a content creator and you highlight a piece of some news and then you package it for broadcasting from your perspective, I go and do the same. Maybe look at the same project and broadcast it my way, and we produce different narratives. Which one is fake news? Mine or yours?
No, we're talking of facts here. They can both be fake news.
News are never fake.
Yeah.
News are never factual. News are never factual. How can it be?
Biased.
There's always some bias towards.
Yeah, of course there are some bias, but sometimes at least you expect the. I understand when you talk about the bias, but about 90% of the things that are in there, we can say they are factual. You can drop in your biases in there, but at least the ground cover of what you want to say, everyone can agree to say this is factual.
Okay, there's a popular newspaper somewhere in Africa, which when you read it, you can easily confirm that it's biased towards this kind of narrative, or it's biased towards this kind of narrative. So when we start saying, it's fake news, fake to who? From whose perspective? Unless you're telling me that all news is authenticated until unauthenticated.
No.
Yeah, I agree with you there to say you cannot rule out and then say this news is fake. No, there is what is called selective hearing, right? You need to filter in what you want to hear. The same applies also to the people that are giving the news. They need to tell you what they want you to hear.
Right.
So same story.
Go on.
Here's a picture there. Someone took this picture. This is a road in Zimbabwe, and it was highlighting the potholes. And the minister came up and said that was fake news.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what we are saying. Is it fake news? If we check factually, was it fake news or is
even
it
if we check factually, all news are unconfirmed reports until proven otherwise.
Yes, that's what we are saying. Yeah. I agree with
but
what what Misha has just said, someone says this is fake news just because they want to protect their own back. Yeah. So that statement, fake news, can also be misused to say, when you want to protect a narrative, to say the development is happening and you are the government and you've got power, you can label anything fake news as well. And it has become a pattern. I agree with you, Makombe. It has become a pattern that whenever a narrative comes up where even governments don't agree with, they label it fake news.
Here is what Rue said, but is it fake news when the roads look like that?
It can be fake news if you don't, if no one really checks, because someone can come up with a road somewhere, not even in Zimbabwe. We have seen that happening. But if
exactly, that's what I wanted to say. That is exactly what I wanted to say.
If we have a Zimbabwean reporter on that road and confirms that, guys, this is what is the road like, then there's no denial to say things are like
they
that.
can simply say is unconfirmed images are
Yes.
highlighted ABCD.
There's a saying that says history is written by the victor.
Yeah, true.
Right.
Yeah, I think there are cases whereby when you talk of politics, I think governments, they manipulate politics to suit their own agendas.
That's why they spin doctors.
Yeah. So that's where some propaganda slips in.
That's why.
Let me ask you one question. Why are you saying governments manipulate? Why don't you? So you're saying maybe the opposition people or the opposition parties, don't they also manipulate and magnify?
No, he's being polite.
No. What I'm saying, no, what I'm saying is,
I know what you want to say, Shumba.
No. Don't think for me.
I know what you want to say.
Don't think for me. I'm quite capable of thinking for myself. No. The opposition. The opposition exaggerate things. You know the problem with our politics, Jenna. Ours is not even politics. If you look at it, maybe I'm now hitting on the head. Ours is not politics. If you want the honest answer, ours is not politics. It's survival. Ours is politics. I always tell them there's no politics in Zimbabwe because everyone is controlling where he eats every day. Waona kana wakuuya kunoku ndokuonona politics handiti, because where the labor comes out of power, maconservative achipinda, nothing changes zvakanyanya. Munomu anotaura kuti without political parties this country can go for 100 years with the civil service running this country. Can you say the same with Zimbabwe, where everything has been politicized?
Yes, we cannot compare them. Hatimutora nyaya yema-Republicans nema-Conservatives kunoku pakambochinja from who to who.
Aiwa,
Kompeka dai zvakamboitika.
Aiwa, ikachinonetsa Jenaka maparties acho tinofoma muZimbabwe anenge asina ideology.
Aiwa, ana ideology. Ideology wanayo.
Yekuba.
Maipa man. That's a great social media. Maipa.
All right, I'll give you an example. I think this is what I'm saying is legal. Jonathan Moyo was one of the biggest all-time spin doctors come out of Zimbabwe. Yeah. You see, I also understand that. Okay, what would I die and so what should I? Aka create a wondering minda narrative to the core, to the point yekuti munhu wese anga akuiziva kuti ondoiminda chii. You see what I mean? But the same person is no longer on the same seat. Do you get it? Saka narrative apo zvino izvi yakatosiyana neyanga yakaunzwa naJohnson.
So you see, this is where the difference we have. When I say there is no politics in Zimbabwe, or in other countries, even wanana, let's leave my democracies. Even some countries where monarchs, Saudi Arabia, they will identify this. Yeah?
What's the topic though?
Yoga, uramba uchinonoka uziya topic urutotinesa iwe.
The topic is the power of the social media activism. Is it driving change or just creating noise?
Oh.
Sorry, Makombe. Yeah, all right.
So I wanted to play this one. Was it activism or just making noise?
Uyu ndiani anga chinyora manonzi gura jeni anonzani gold whatever.
This flag. This beautiful flag. They tell me that
we are not
green is
doing
for
that.
vegetation.
We are not doing that.
Crops.
Not today.
I don't see any crops in my country. And the yellow is for
right. I just wanted to share that one because it became almost a movement at some point. Was it just making noise, or was it bring any change?
Movement from whose
I think problem is
who was following him.
I know I've come in late. The problem is I think we follow the wind too much. I argue with women a lot when they say, "Oh, I follow this person. Oh, I follow this person," and I say, "What are you getting from following this person? What content are they giving you that benefits you?" Ah, well, she does it with no panties on. That's why you're following. You know that Zodwa person. So you're following Zodwa because she dances with no panties on. How is that beneficial to you? But I think as a people, we follow wind. We go with the wind. You know the reed in the water. When you go to the river, you see the reeds. They follow the wind. They flow. I think we do that without realizing what we are gaining from it. I think a lot of noise without. With my people, I actually get angry because if we see streams where they're shouting at each other, they're the ones that gain momentum. Streams where people are talking rubbish, like shouting at each other, telling each other, "Your mother is a witch." That's what gains momentum with us. We don't talk progress. We don't think, okay, there's thousands of people talking about this. And the people that are being followed, Makombe, people like Cookie, they've got following, thousands of people following. For what? All they talk about is, "Oh, look at me, oh my God." And that's what gains momentum. Why? That's what it is right there. Why? Why do you waste your money to juice a phone, because I know in Zimbabwe you have to put money in the phone to watch videos. For what?
Soko, that is human nature. Kuti zvinhu zvakavharidzirwa zvikati pane pazviri kuonekera mbichana munhu wese tikuanda kumhanya kuenda ikoko zvinhu zvakasonganiswa zvinhu zviri pachena a clear and straightforward thing. People don't want that kind of life. They want zvinhu zvakavhara zvinhu zvine katitsoti mbichana. So those are vanenge vachida. As a result, the first thing is kuramba zviri pachena zvacho wotanga kuda kutsvaka zvakawanda. Then indani nyaya nashumba matizo kuZimbabwe there's no politics. Zvandirwadza zvokusvika pakuti ndikanyatsotsvaka ndimbokuverengera definition yapolitics. Saka ngatiwerenge tu madefinition apolitics atikuona panapa. Imwe yakanzi the activities associated with the governance of a country or area, especially the debate between parties having power. Then the other one, activities aimed at improving someone's status or increasing power within an organization. Eobva vati hatina kuno tikuda dumbu chete. Kumama.
rega makomba ambopindure ungati tauya paplatform pano kuti ndakakumaka ita makombe nasoko ambopindure.
Is a crazy. Can I not go to Oxford dictionary? Pura pari.
A country like UK.
Can I what was a dictionary?
What's the politics?
Kutori nenyika kantori nemapresident emotudza kuti hakuna politics sei.
Unoona nyaya yataurwa nasoko apa jena ukanyatsoteerera soko mataurire waitaka you understand why tichiti Zimbabwe haina politics, because at the bottom of chinhu chinonzi statehood it's the institutions that you build, and my institutions, they are the ones that run the country, not individuals. My individuals, they should be subject to my institutions. Manje isusu, we have individuals who are above institutions, and we call that politics. Ndosaka uchiona zviri kutaurwa nasoko kuti vanhu vanoteera. I can give an example. Macheche tinawo kuZimbabwe akangofanana naanazodwa iwawo.
Aiwa usamboenda kure Shumba. Hurumende izvavasika. Once in a while vanounza kamutemo kekuti vanhu vese mumbotukana. Last time vakaunza kamutemo kekuti magirlfriend masmall house ane rights kuinheritance yababa. Mukagokweshana ikoko ivo vachitora zvavari kutora vari kuside. And pane madiversions akadaro anoitika once every 3 months. They will bring something chekutika pamunombotukana paipeka hamusi kutarisa zviri kuitika. Kati hey, inini girlfriend yemurume wangu hawana inheritance. Murume wako haana kana ngoro. Haana kana saka inheritance yauri kuda kuti girlfriend anowana ndeipi papa uri kurwirei? Tigotukana, tigonetsana, tigojusa foni, ndigodairawo maichedza handina kana meni kana nemurume wacho handina. This is what happens to Africa. Vanokunzirai something chekuti toda kuisa mutemo, havaise mutemo, vanongoti tikuda kuisa mutemo wakati.
Ndozvendiri kutaura.
Umwe unogona ngozitomuripo just a social media. Dzimwe dzinenge dzingori story.
Ndati tiri kuda kuisa mutemo wakati, hauna kuiswa. Kuisa mutemo wakati munoita 3 months muchikonetsana. Baba wanhingi girlfriend yako haina chairi kuwana, baba anhingi havana kana bhandi rekusunga bhuruku.
Ndopetiri kutaura soko ndikati kana pasina ma-institutions, nyaya yemataura iyaiya ndeyekuti munomu, I think ameno kana makamboona kuti pane time vanhu vakatanga kushare maphotos paWhatsApp, zvakatodzingisa mumwe mukadzi, so engari police commissioner. She shared that photo with her husband. After that, takabva taonimwa zvikanzi, if you share that maphotos akadai in your WhatsApp group, like ewana wachaabuswa. Mese zvinokwe. Saka I remember group redu remuManchester muno mumwe akakanda that kind of. I remember people saying shamwari ka akabva aburitswa mugroup zvikanzi uda kuti tangira, waona. So nyika inofanira kunge ine mutemo, inofanira kunge ine ma-institutions. The things that are left for people to do ndozvinozoita kuti amumboziva you are taken by the wind. Mhepo ikabvawo ichienda uko inokuvhuvhutai, ichibvawo uko ichienda uko inokuvhuvhutai, because there's no foundation on which the nation is resting.
Kunonzi nyoka huru haizvirumi, n'anga haizvirumi.
I think tofanira tombonga totaura nyaya yekuti so what is it that we refer to as to say kuti ndo foundation, because mafoundation achari nyaya kusiyana stere. Munhu akanyogadzira foundation rake rekungoti anenge akateya kuti izvi hazvizi, anoramba achikobuild on that kuti aburitse point yekuti izvi hazvisi, then anenge achitiwo ndizvo anenge ane zvakewo zvaari kuramba achingounganidza.
Aiwa, kana uda kuona true foundation yekutaura, even ukaenda kumadzimambo ekudhara yai, handi iwe waiziva kuti kune jinda ramambo, handiti basa rajinda ramambo raiwe rechii? Akafa jinda ramambo, does it mean office yavharwa? Kunopinda it's a structure of an organization. Those are the institutions. That jinda ramambo is not the individual who is in there, it's the institution.
Kana pamusha pane muzukuru. Muzukuru anodaidzwa kuti ndiye anotsiura, ndiye anotonga, ndiye anodzoreredza. Handiti azvireva kuti muzukuru munhu wani, kana kuti murume kana kuti mukadzi. Handiti muzukuru ndiye anodaidzwa kuzotsiura sekuru kuti apa padaima, you know, izvi zvinhu zvinoitika mumamisha chaimo, small institutions zvokuti mumusha menyu munozviziva imimi kuti mukadzi wenyu akanoudza muzukuru, imi munouya muchitsiurwa nemuzukuru. Handiti muzukuru anoya but sekuru apa daima and zvinenge zvisina kutukana, but ndiye jinda ramambo riri kutaurwa.
Mediation is a complex institution, guys.
Yes. Ndo munyai. In between, middlemen.
So if you on a state level, if you lose all that now, ndope munogumisira ma rudderless kungoti nhasi unouya akapinda nyika wanobva kuchina wakauya wakati toda kupaza gomo iro, wanongopaza. But kana muine ma institutions now, I remember, do you remember pakanzi noamwe prophet handichataure nemazita zvikanzi ndinorapa AIDS, wakanzi chii? Wakanzi ndine mushonga wekurapa AIDS, wakanzi chii? Handi inonzi chi medical what?
GMC, General Medical Council.
No. In kuZimbabwe, inocontrola yemedication yemuZimbabwe, the Health Council of Zimbabwe. Yakamuti, you need to withdraw your statement or we taking you to court because mishonga yako hapana kweyakamboapprove. Akabango nyarara nyaya iyoyo. That's now we're talking of an institution holding someone to account. So ukazotarisa many sectors of Zimbabwe, these institutions now are completely dead, they've been hollowed out. Munoziva jena kuti isusu tichikura kwaiwe nemapurisa emunzizi, unoziva kumamisha uko. Amedo kana wakakurira kubusha. Ukaonekwa uchipondera, hanti vanhu vaita basa rekupondera riya. Ukaonekwa uchipondera nemapurisa emurwizi muya unoenda kujeri. Because kupondera kawaibva wauraya rwizi rwese, matafi nechii zvese, bulala zongi.
But zvimwe zvinhu zvinochinja kuti tainga takambotaura nyaya yekumuvha netime. Zvimwe zvinenge zvine mapositives, zvimwe zvo zvine manegatives. Ekuti like neindigenization kana vanhu vaonawo pane gold, vasvikawo pane gold, zvanongoda kunzi ngavachiita sei, ngavachigadzira mapepa zviite straight forward, zvisarambe zvichingoita zvichitsotsi, kuitira kuti state iwane
chikumba chekuru kwechirungu wakadai so murungu akaba right. Isusu tese hatimbofa takazviziva, munoziva, hatimbofa takazviziva. By the time paanoba achiba anotoita straight, kutoita umwe munhu asina kuba. Isusu tukangoba chete tinotozviziva ende hatiite straight, tinoramba tichidzoka kunoba futi kusvika tavatwa.
Plus, we don't believe in ourselves. We always want to say if a wrong thing has been done.
Remains in its infancy in our communities. Because belief system yedu ndiye kuti chinhu ndachiona chaitika. Ndiri kuchipostora vanotodai. Ndiri kuZion kuno vanotodai. Vanodaro kudaro vachidaro. But the core issue ndeyekuti mukaunderstand kuti belief system chimbori chii zvakamirira yei. Then we'll go places.
I think, Makombe, where I disagree with you is you always reduce this to individual level. I always say these things need to be at a state level. Because when you are running a nation, it's from top down, not from down up. So some of these religious beliefs, religious beliefs, but the state is supposed to say this is the extent to which you can go with your beliefs. Otherwise, ukasadaro munogumisira maita makauts wakaona zvakaitika kuKenya zvekuti ndaro yakati kune vanhu vaya tiri kutsanya for 30 days non-stop. How many people
But I always ask you the same question. Kuti kana muchiti state cannot government, who is that government or state? Makombe is right. It starts from the individual. Yes. Is that individuals? No. A lot of individuals making up the state.
Yeah, that bit I understand. But when we come together, right, to formulate affect better form my institutions now, and no one can go above what those institutions do, because those institutions is what keeps the state intact. Sometimes the law is in us, and it because mtemo pamwe pachoka zvinhu zvonofunga kuti zviri so obvious, it doesn't make it obvious. Right? Munogona kuti auraya munhu, munomu anokuudza kuti haana kuuraya manslaughter kana kuti it was diminished responsibility, and it because there are institutions that are looking into all those aspects. I remember istoshanda muhealthcare munomuka munhu akafa, I think soko anondipupurira, munhu akafa fanika akafa pasina tsarukano, unoona panouya kana kuti 5 different people, but they are representing institutions.
Yeah.
Doctor anouya kuzocertifya, koita kana engeri sudden death mapurisa ari kuuya, kunouya wana corona wa involved. Mukaita that incident munostresseka so because mibvunzo yacho inenge ichibvunzwa ipopo kuti ndozvetiri kutaura nema-institutions, but kana tiri kuZimbabwe because my institutions iwayo they've been hollowed out, munhu anongoona akarembera zvonzi azvisungirira upi uyo dambura endai munofushira. You have not investigated, even though it seems obvious, it might not what it seems. You know?
I can see right, Shumba. But I think where Makombe might be coming is for us to build those institutions, it is built by individuals. And so if we need to have, first of all, build the individual so that they are people who are capable of creating institutions that are accountable.
Yeah.
So you see where it's now an egg and chicken problem you are going to create. Because for you, an individual, I create my institutions, you need to be taught first how that institution works. I'm going creating. This is why I said there's no politics in Zimbabwe, because our young generation iri kukura isingaziwe the function yema institutions.
Right. I think this conversation will not end. So I think at some point we have to agree to pack it and resume it from on another time. It's non-exhaustive, this topic about social media. But I think we need to tear it down. If we can prepare to put our final thoughts, not too long, so that the viewers, if they are taking notes, they can take away something from this discussion about social media activism. Does it drive change, or does it just create noise? I don't know who might want to go first.
Yeah, I'll just go first. I would say I think social media can be a force for good as well as a force for distraction. So the way you handle it, it needs to be also covered by the laws of the country, so that at least people are held to account whatever they say or do on social media. But it can also be a force for good to hold politicians to account, or for social change when you advocate for social activities and for promoting certain things within the community. I think the benefits are there, the negatives are there. So it's for us to get the balance right.
Thank you. Who wants to go next?
I think social media can be your best friend or your worst enemy. It depends how you use it. Many people are benefiting from it, like businesses are being created on social media. It just depends what you want. You can get whatever you want from it. If you want to be frivolous and happy and spend all day laughing, you can get that. If you want gossip and whatever, you can get that. If you want malice, you can get that. If you want to create a business, people are doing that. And if only we could learn from it. If only we could create our own platforms like that. I know that that's a different story altogether, but social media is what you make it.
Thank you very much. Who want to go next?
Okay. I think we can say social media, yes, like everyone else has said, it has got some positives and some negatives. But I think what we need to do is the issue with that social media is that authentication is very important. So that is the thing that is lacking on social media. If you get some news or some information on the social media, people tend to act on the news as if it is authentic. And then we also have got some people taking advantage of that, then misleading others. So social media can do both. It can be good, it can be bad. But on the good part, it actually keeps the people awake because there is always someone on the lookout or on the check of what is really happening. And it is also cutting on the bureaucracy where things have got to go through the normal way and someone gets to sit on some information. But because of social media, you find already some things getting out. And that actually at times helps.
Right. Right. Social media is a David and Goliath issue. It's a quacks and creditors issue whereby every party is trying to draw the argument positively to its side. Yes, it has got its own benefits. Business entities have been created. It also has its own negatives, whereby litigants information or legal fraternities have come up with different types of story for mediation. So everything has got to start with I. Do I understand what this is about? If I understand it, where do I take it to? Is it ready for broadcasting? Is it ready for social media? Whoever is in a position to broadcast something, they must remember whatever they broadcast says a lot about their personal branding, says a lot about their personal manifesto, says a lot to the audience you are addressing. So, as when you decide to publish anything, make sure you're on the spotlight. Thank you.
Thank you very much, and I think this was quite an engaging subject. We ranged from demonstrations to politics, government, content creation. But to sum it up, I think everybody has agreed that social media has got positives and negatives. And from Shumba, it boils down to being accountable. Someone has to be held to account, and it's there for good and for bad. And from Soko, she says you can actually create businesses out of social media. It just depends what you use it for. I think her main contribution is when you follow someone on social media, why are you following them? Pakanzi, this flag, do you understand it? I think because my war veterans, they are advocating for something. Do we understand their cause? If we follow them, is it going to get us anywhere? Jenna, how much on authentication? When you see something on social media, do you just run with it before verifying whether it is true or not? Because otherwise, at the end of it, you become part of the flow. So when it is used for good, it keeps people informed, and it also helps to those in authority to be checked. But from Wumba, his mantra, the I concept. Do you understand what you are publishing? Do you believe what you are? Because there has been some different legal mediation over what has been put out there on the social media. It's all about personal branding. It's all about, do you understand what you're putting out there? So I think for us as Champions Network TV, we do things that are authentic. That's why we bring these informative discussions. And this is not the end. This is just a teaser of the subject. So for me, I just want to thank you for contributing, for those online. Thank you for watching, and for Ru, I think your comment was timely to say, if we can see such a pothole on the road, and you tend to call it fake news, is it really fake? So to everybody, thank you for watching.
Thank you. Good night.